There's just not any respect here. Is Ricky not here? Let's go ahead and get back started. I think we're now ready to get into the Fishery Management Committee, and I'm going to ask Chairman Bledsoe to handle that, please.
Thank you, Chairman McMillan. Jim Bledsoe, Chairman of the Fisheries Committee, and would like to recognize Frank Fisk, Proclamation 1302, commercial fishing.
All right. Yeah, I have this proclamation to present and a little bit of background or a report from the Asian carp tournament. So yeah, we're proposing Proclamation 1302, which is an amendment to the existing commercial fish proclamation. There's three components of this amendment. The first deals with the closed times on the embayments in Kentucky Lake. These are areas that are highly used by sport fishermen for crappie bass fishing in April and May. So there's been a long-standing closure to commercial gears between 4 in the morning and 9 o'clock at night. Commercial fishers requested a little more time, particularly that morning time where they say they get pretty high catch rates just in those pre-dawn hours, and they want to get them fish out. So we discussed this among staff, and we've agreed that we'd like to change that time to 5 a.m. in the morning, and they would be allowed back into those areas 1 hour after sunset. Now this gives the commercial fishers an extra hour in the morning, and basically an extra hour, they can start an hour earlier in the evening in the 1st of April. About 50 minutes actually. By the end of May, as days get longer, that starts to look a lot more like 9 o'clock like it used to be. So there's definitely a big change in the morning and a change in the evening that will go back to 9 o'clock basically. So the second change is to add black carp to the list of commercially harvested species. Black carp is an exotic invasive species that is not common in Tennessee, fortunately, but there are a few of them in Mississippi River, and we'd like to keep the few that may be caught dead. We don't want to see them released. And the third edition deals with mesh sizes on gill nets. And I just want to do a little background here. When we talk about mesh sizes, we're talking about the square or bar mesh size. That's from knot to knot, we measure that. It's not the stretch diagonal distance. The current gill net sizes that are legal across the state on waters that are open to commercial fishing, except the Mississippi River, the legal gear are 3 to 4 inch mesh and mesh that are 6 inches and larger. On the Mississippi River, the legal gear is 3 to 4 inch and 5 and larger. We were asked by the commercial fishers to allow a 4.5 inch mesh because this mesh would be, they could purchase it in a higher tensile strength, if you will. It'd be stouter net. It would not only let them catch silver carp, potentially Asian carp, but also, as I understand it, they would lose less tackle when they're catching fish that if they're fishing for buffalo and they've got to pull these silver carp out of their net, they're not as likely to destroy their nets. They're a little more durable product they can work with. So in doing so, if you look at the Mississippi River here, there's only a 1/2 inch that's basically closed at that point, and that's really a very minor closure. It's at that size gill net, you really don't see a lot of mesh sizes between 1/2 inch sizes anyway. So we further changed that recommendation that Bobby gave last month to say that on the Mississippi River only, we would allow 3 inch and larger gill nets. It's just simpler. We still want to keep that restriction up here at the 5 and a 5.5 inch mesh at this time. We haven't staffed that with our biologists. So this will be the final amendment to the final change in that amendment, and it'll read as posted here. And that concludes the guts of that amendment 1302.
Thanks, Frank. Is there any questions for the commission on amendment 1302? None. Do I hear any questions from the audience? Hearing none, Mr. Chairman, the Fisheries Committee recommends Proclamation 1302, the amendment to the commercial fishing.
Do I have a motion? Second? Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it.
That's a quick question. The closure for 5 and 5.5 inches on the commercial gear wasn't that previously requested by the commercial fishermen to close that?
That's what I've been, it's my understanding, yeah.
Okay, so as far as we're concerned, or you're concerned, biologically, we don't care if the whole state is 3 and larger.
Well, we'd like to staff that with our biologists. That was, just because the commercial fishers brought it, doesn't mean it was something that we didn't want at that time. I just don't know. We'll want to talk about that.
So in your, y'all meet in May?
We do, we have our, we'll review the commercial proclamation and sport fish proclamation. We have that meeting set for mid-May, and we'll cover a lot of these issues. And there were some other things that the commercial fishers brought in their request a month and a half ago or so, and I know we only addressed the things that we thought were most pertinent to Asian carp at this time. But we're gonna talk about all that stuff, hoop nets and everything else.
Okay,
at
that's what I was
that
asking
other
about hoop
biologist
nets.
meeting.
I know the fellow from Illinois, I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, that was a specialist that came down and talked to us last time. I know Dr. Lyons, he raised a lot of questions, I think, that what they were doing, but of course, I understand they have a staff of 10 people and $8 million in grants, and also obviously they can do a lot more, but as the problem is coming down, I'm sure that we're gonna have to make adjustments to help the commercial fishermen be successful in catching these. What can you tell us about any potential new plants or anything that's gonna create more of a demand, or?
I have that as part of the next presentation.
Okay, I'm sorry.
If you want to.
Yeah.
I'll build up.
All right, my fault.
A couple weeks ago, I don't know if you heard, but there was a Asian carp tournament hosted by Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife. It was held in March 2 days. They had 21 entries, 15 people showed up the first day, and only 11 fished on the second day. The rules, there were a lot of rules, but just briefly, they were allowed 15 gill nets, and they were allowed to fish Kentucky and Barkley lakes, presumably just in Kentucky. And that's what happened there. Of course, this attracted commercial fishers, I suppose regionally. I wasn't here I was only there for 1 day, and so a lot of what I know is hearsay and pictures that people have shared with me. But these are a couple of boats that showed up on the first day that looked like they were ready to catch some serious carp. And these aren't the typical plate aluminum boats that you see our guys run or commercial fishers running. And had I been in this tournament and I saw that team roll up, I'd have been really nervous, but they never got their boat started. So that happens to the best of them. They had some kind of equipment failure, and they did not partake in the tournament. You know, the goals of the tournament were to get fish out of the river and demonstrate that this tournament, this type of thing, could remove a lot of fish at one time. It was also to get the media attention to the problem, and also to promote silver carp as a fish, as food. Fish is food. Here's a more typical contestant here. This guy in the blue fleece is from the AP, so they did get a lot of national coverage and regional coverage. This is a typical haul for one of the better, or they're better, but the guys were catching the most fish during the tournament. It was a lot of work. All them fish had to get picked up and put down a couple times, and they were hand lifted off the boats in the parking lot into these tubs, which hold about 2,200 pounds of fish. And you can see the trucks over here. There was a fish meal truck there, and then there was Schaefer, who was purchasing other rough fish. If they brought in buffalo or gar or whatever, they would buy them too at a little higher price. They were offering, they were getting 2 cents a pound for these fish that were going to the fish meal plant. And And all this pricing is not market pricing, it's all based on the structure of the tournament. So that's, I just want to let you know that there were these trucks there ready to take the fish away. This guy with the forklift was pretty important. All these logistics are why we went up to see this tournament. How are they going to handle all these fish? What are they going to do? And so this guy was actually part of the Schaefer Fish employees that they provided to handle the fish. So of course typical weigh-in over the 2-day period, those boats brought in 83,000 pounds of silver carp and other carp. There was some grass carp and some big head carp caught, but it was well over, it was 99% silver carp. The winner won $10,000 for 28,000 pounds of fish. Second place was like 22,000 pounds of fish. And then the catch rates dropped pretty quick after that. This is just the first outing. Imagine if people, as they learn how to do these things, their initial target was 200,000 pounds. And they came a little short, but you could see easily if everyone just got 10,000 pounds, they would have made that target. And they needed to meet those targets to help pay for the trucking and the hauling of the fish and stuff. So that was the result of that. So they did remove fish. They did have the media present, and they also had a real push to get the word out about silver carp as food. Their staff were there filleting fish, showing people how to fillet the fish, how to prepare the fish, feeding people the fish fried. And Bobby and I didn't really expect this, but when we got there, we had the pleasure of meeting Chef Felipe Parola, who gave us his vision and his project plan for about an hour and 15 minutes. And it was pretty fascinating stuff. He's talking about, we constantly hear about, is there a market overseas for these fish? He's saying, forget that. We're importing 85% of the fish we're eating. We can eat these domestically. And what he wants to do is develop a plant that will process these things and do some value-added stuff to them so he can get all the fish meat out of it and then create fish cakes, fish balls, just all these things that you get on your buffet lines, all these Cisco products that have value added. They got other stuff. I'm no chef, but it was very convincing that there's demand for this product domestically, and he was an interesting guy to talk to. So that message was heard loud and clear. They had pretty cold weather. They had a lot of people locally drive up to see what was going on, but it was pretty cold. You weren't going to stand around there long during this thing. So again, I was just there for a few hours. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Where did the prize money, where did it?
Oh yeah, the Kentucky had sponsors. I know that they had entry fees. There was some money there. They were getting some money for the fish money went to the fishermen. I know they rely heavily on sponsors, and they want to do that in the future. Their version of our foundation was used to do fundraising, and they're going to rely on that in the future. I don't know if they had any agency seed money in it or not. I just don't know.
Any other question from the commission?
But I thought I heard there was some folks from Louisiana or something that were up there that were thinking about investing in some plants and stuff.
That was Chef Parola.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's actually from Louisiana. He works internationally, but he'll sell you on these fish. He was very convincing.
Well, I just would encourage the agency to in May when y'all are there, that anything we can do that can help catch these fish without obviously having too much bycatch that's going to affect our sports fishing, and obviously we want to do that.
Okay, yeah, and they also, I'm sorry, the Kentucky game or fishing game people were out there looking at bycatch and what kind of nets were being used. I don't have access to those data yet.
Can you find out what size nets they were using?
Well, we've asked. We're waiting to get that information.
That
there was anecdotally almost no bycatch. It was just rough fish.
But didn't at one point we we, at the request of commercial fishing, we reduced the size of the nets because they were concerned about bycatch of small paddlefish or something.
They did request it. I don't know what exactly their motivation was for that. There's been a lot of things, but I agree. I mean, we're just learning now about how this fish is acting in our waters. There's no telling what the ultimate gear for this thing is going to be next year, and it's probably not in our proclamation. We're going to have to be adaptable to get these fish out.
It's a shame the boat that didn't start,
Oh,
because
I'd
it'd be
like to see
interesting to see
that.
what it could have done, because it's almost like a shrimp trawler or something for fresh
Yeah.
water. So, but,
I had a quick question. What was the company out of Mississippi, the fish meal company? I've forgotten.
I never knew. It's just
Well,
a fish meal
I
company.
found out who it was. Anyway, I called and talked to their operating plant manager, Chad Patterson, who went to the tournament. And I quizzed him a little bit about the market, and we talked for 45 minutes. But anyway, they're not paying a lot for those fish. They're processing some now because they take the catfish from catfish farms and they make meal, pelletize it, and make food, animal food. And he says that these fish, there's some potential there, but they've got to change some of the way they're doing it. Long story short, they're looking at different ways that they might make a market out of this. It just doesn't sound like they're really close right now.
aren't they just now paying like 7 cents a pound though?
They're not paying much.
Yeah. And this guy that's wanting to do the carp cakes and stuff, the silverfin is his trademark name, I'm sorry. He's thinking that he can pay a much higher price because he's going to be able to do that value added on the spot, and that's his business plan.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Chairman McMillan, that concludes the Fisheries Committee.
Thank you, Chairman Bledsoe. So we're gonna move now to government relations. I'll ask Chairman Woodson to head that, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If Mr. Nat Johnson could join us for a legislative update.
Thank you. I've got a few comments, and then I've got a little short video I'm going to show. Okay, just go over a few of the activities that we participate in, a few things that have been going on. We've participated in several outreach activities to become more acquainted with the members, to get our message across. We held the Legislative Sportsman's Caucus Dinner, and I appreciate those of you who were able to make it to come by. I think it meant a lot. The governor and both speakers were able to make that and put that on with a lot of assistance from Representative Lawler and the foundation and the federation both participated in that. But I think that's turned out to be a pretty good annual event if we can keep that going. We had the opportunity to make a presentation to the freshman caucus. Director Carter and Steve and Barry came down, and we showed the short 8-minute video and then answered a lot of questions that they have, and I thought that was a very good time spent with that freshman caucus to get to know them better and get our message across to them and about who we are and what we do and what our programs are. So I think that I think that's been very helpful as we move forward. Actually, this session is actually winding down. They have a projected completion date of the 18th of next month, and it does look like that's a reasonable date to reach completion. It may be Friday the 19th, but it's somewhere right in there. The House subcommittee that hears our bills has only got one more meeting left, and there's 6 bills going to be on that calendar, none of which have really impact on the agency. And so that's kind of what's been happening on the House side. On the Senate side, the Senate committee, the Energy, Agricultural, and Natural Resources Committee is actually closed. They're closed subject to the call of the chair. They had their last calendar last week. And once again, no bills of great impact on the agency. There have been a couple of issues out there that we've worked through, some on some captive wildlife issues, but a lot of those were once again simply communications issues and making sure the constituent out there understood what we were trying to do, why we were trying to do it, make sure the members understood that, and every one of those have been worked out as we move forward. The two most common themes in the offline conversations that we've had this year, things of late, have been Etna Mountain and some hog control issues. I have to say that I believe this is the first time, and I believe it's 5 years, there's not been a substantive bill carried in the legislature to move forth on hog issues. And I think that speaks very well to the program that's been put in place. I think it speaks very well to the success of the program. If we put the program out there and it had not been a success, then there continue to be discussion about it. I think the other piece of that has been the work that's been done in the field by the regions and by the officers. And I've reported many times in the past, people would come up and say, you know, we're really having trouble with these hogs out here. Can you raise the number of people on the exemptions? And I'd say, well, have them call me, have them call the regional manager, and if they're really interested in getting rid of the hogs, we will go out there and we will help them. The time had passed, and we didn't hear anything from them. So I go back to the member and say, I didn't hear from your constituents, you tell them we are willing to come out and help them with the hog control efforts on their property. We're more than willing to do it. Just please have them call us. Well, and you wouldn't get those calls, and the members begin to realize who's really wanting to control their hogs, who's just wanting to get more exemptions on it. So, and I think those kinds of things happening are showing that the program's working, and it's showing that we're putting together a very good effort to try to address those issues. And like I said, if it wasn't working and it wasn't being generally accepted in the field, we'd be hearing more about it. But that's not to say that there's no discussion about it. Like I said, the two topics that came up most in offline discussions were hog control measures and at the mountain. Now, like I said, that's not to say there has been no discussion of hog control measures. The only time one committee and one time has there been discussion of it. And what I'd like to do is just show you a little clip of the last Senate Energy, Environment, and Energy, Agriculture, and Natural Resources Committee about some of the comments that were made there. Now, let's put this into context. This is the discussion of a caption bill that was up there that dealt with the height of wild hogs. It could have been used for a number of different things to deal with wild hogs. I did talk to Senator Bell, who is in the main speaker in this, and I said, Senator Bell, I know you've brought this idea up before. You brought this issue up that your constituents had, and this was on Wednesday. I said the commission meets on Friday. Would you like for me to express this and show this to the commission? He said, yes, I would like for you to do it. So this is not a particular comment about any legislator. It's not calling anybody out. It's a delivery of a message that I think we need to think about as we go forward toward next year. And I think he has actually talked to some of you about this issue that I think some of you have brought up. But I thought maybe seeing him deliver this message and what he's got to say would really focus on us on what we need to do as we're going forward. And then a couple more comments after I play this.
We're on item number 11. That is Senate Bill 1268 by Nicely, with no objections.
General Sub.
General Sub.
Senator Nicely, would this bill hold, the caption hold an amendment to allow hog hunting in counties? Do you know if the caption on this bill would allow that?
I'm pretty sure it would. We could pull this thing up and use it any time. We're just moving so fast this year that I can't keep up. We may be moving too fast.
Well, and I know I still have I've got some farmers who own large tracts of land in one of my counties who are trapping the hogs, and after they trap for a while, the hogs get too smart to come in the traps, and now they're they're looking for other means to kill the hogs. I've been talking to the Department of Ag and to TWRA about this, and right now with that change in the law last year, or I guess it's in the rules that govern the taking of wild appearing swine, they're allowing dogs to be used in 5 counties in the Upper Cumberland, but no other place in the state to help eradicate the hogs. And committee members, I'm going to, again, I've been talking to the department, I've been talking to TWRA. I'm going to continue to work with them over the summer, but if we don't get something worked out, I will be coming back next year with a bill to allow the landowners to decide what's best to get rid of the hogs. And we've had enough of the state telling them how they can do it. We need the landowners to be able to have more input on how to get rid of the hogs.
Senator Nisley?
I can tell you how to get rid of the hogs. First thing you gotta do is not let TWRA have anything to do with them. They're not wild animals. They're not on the big game list. They're a tame hog gone wild, and turn it over to the landowners. Let them. The USDA, which I happen to agree with in this case, says if you want rid of the hogs, you let the landowners trap them and sell them. They'll bring $1 a pound. That'll sell at Cookville last week. Hogs were bringing $600-700. Let the landowners trap them and sell them. And you said your hogs were smarter than the voters down there. I see why you got elected.
So that's, just levity at the end, to show that. But I think Senator Bell's very serious about us coming up with our next phase, or what are we going to do? And I think as Chuck Yost talked about earlier, that's exactly what they're discussing. And I think we need to be ready for that. I mean, we've been put on notice. We can't say it wasn't coming. So we need to be put on notice to work with some of these people over the summer, present this information to them. I think the information that we had about the effectiveness of the exemption program, the positive comments from that, is information that I plan on getting out before the legislature goes home this year, to make sure they're mulling over that piece of it and the success of the program that we've had in the past. But I just wanted to, once again, this is not calling anybody out. I did speak to Senator Bell about presenting this, and he would like for y'all to have gotten the message, and I think it's a good way to deliver that message, to know that's exactly the thought process he's got. And there are a couple of other representatives in that area that are thinking along those same lines, but I think continue to educate those people, to work with them, have our officers work with them in the field, has been the best proving method that we can have. If the program had not been a success, we'd heard more about it this year, and I think that's just the bottom line to it. So,
I'll recognize myself. Thank you very much, Nat. So a couple of things. I've actually had a pretty lengthy conversation with Senator Bell, and I think that we have a great opportunity. I think Nat's approach and the agency's approach to educating members of the General Assembly before the adjournment is a very good idea. I think that there's also an opportunity here to, I think Senator Bell gets very specific about the particular challenges that landowners in his community are having. I think that they're very open to strategies to try to deal with, frankly, a pretty wise hog population in that community for a variety of reasons. And so I think we've got an opportunity here to do that. We just heard in the earlier conversation that there are strategies that have not necessarily been employed to deal with this. And I certainly will volunteer as the chairman of the Government Relations Committee to do whatever I can to make sure we have those conversations. Senator Bell was very complimentary of the agency officials in his community, their willingness to work with him and landowners in the community. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity here for productive next steps between now and January. And Mr. Chairman, I think that your presence in those conversations could be a huge value to make sure that we understand the exact challenges that they're having, and work with the agency, because I know we've got a lot of folks with the agency who are working diligently to eradicate hogs.
They're very complimentary of the work that the agency has done in those areas. It's just, I think they're up against some challenges that are a little exceeding what they thought was gonna be available. And once again, I compliment the region. Every time I'd call the region down there, they would know exactly what was going on. They'd know exactly the situation. Had worked with the landowners on several occasions, but they've just got some particular situations that are causing them some issues down there that they're going to their particular legislators about. But I'd much rather address the issue now, the way we got the opportunity, than to just all of a sudden see something come forth next year that we didn't know anything about. So I do thank Senator Bell for giving us this advance notice to go ahead and work with him and try and come up with some solutions.
Mr. Chairman, I echo Commissioner Woodson's sentiments, and Senator Bell has done a yeoman's job, you know, in allowing this discussion to continue through this year as opposed to proposing the legislation. The only thing that I would suggest that we consider is that we have 21 other representative stakeholders, if you will, in the memorandum of understanding on the wild hog control. And I think it's important that they hear what Senator Bell is hearing, that they hear from the people, and that we at least extend the offer to those folks, because they have walked with us. Many of them have said it's been very successful. And as we begin to make adjustments to this, we want to make sure that they're communicated with and have an opportunity to speak as well.
Director Carter, would you be willing to maybe expand to our 21 members of the memorandum of understanding, possibly of the success? Are they apprised of the success of it and the success of the hogs being trapped and that sort of thing? Or do we need to inform them?
Well, Commissioner Cannon read the rest of my notes over here. So
Oh.
that's going to be my kind of closing piece, that we had talked about getting that group together either in the summer or the fall to, once we've got the rest of our data together, present that information to them, present what our plan is going forward, and make sure we still got all the agreement of the MOU partners to go forward. So make sure we all are still on the same page as we move forward, and to know where we stand when we go in the next legislative session. So yes, it was already in our plans to get that group together, make some presentations to them, get their input about where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. So that's absolutely part of the process we want to go through as we go forward.
What area does Senator Bell represent?
Southeast Tennessee.
Okay, so how many county areas is that he's concerned about?
I think it's basically in a couple of counties, or just one, McMinn County. Yeah, I think a lot of this activity is in McMinn County, and John's officers and other personnel have really worked with those people. But I do think they have some legitimate issues of not being able to control, and once again, it may be education on our part to make sure that the correct methodologies are being put in place, and you know, they're experiencing some of the same learning curve that we did about how to deal with these hogs.
I just want to mention also, we have a contract that we've put together and has gone down, waiting for approval, but it will give us the ability to work the USDA and do their aerial gunning that they've given us a reduced price on. And I think I mentioned before that this whole issue is such a hot topic everywhere that all the southeastern states, that was their number one submission to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for a multi-state grant from Control of Wild Hogs. The Mid-Atlantic states did the same thing. So it is an issue that many other states are looking at. I talked with some folks from New York who have instituted some pretty aggressive things that they're doing in New York State even. So it's not just confined to the southeast, but it is something that's coming up all over the place. And as Nat said, we have every plan to get together with our MOU partners to make sure that we're all on the same page and talk with them one-on-one and let them express any ideas they may have. And so it's an ongoing process and one that we're willing to certainly change with as things need to change. And some of the issues that have come up in the past and how the program has been put together, we feel are still very sound. And before we begin to move back from some of those, we'd really like to have some good indication that those methods would actually be successful and not an alternative that might not be as successful as ordinarily that some people would have thought.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Commissioner Cox?
Yeah, John, you said that's in your area. What, and you kind of touched on it, what have you guys worked with the specific farmers that Senator Bell is talking about? And if so, what do they want to do that's not being allowed? And could you do more? Because I think that's the cure to Senator Bell's problem, is to take care of the people that are having a problem.
I can't tell you right now that we're dealing with these particular landowners. I know that we're reacting and helping any landowner that has requested our help. So I don't know if they've asked us but I know the local officer is dealing with these people and helping them do the things that they want to do or can do under the law to eradicate the hogs. What they want to do is run hogs with dogs and to help their situation out down there to eradicate the hogs on their property.
Can we find out who these farmers are and try to direct our efforts to help them so we can take care of the problem? They'll leave the dog issue alone? Or?
I think we have a list of those people, and so that assigned a letter to, I guess, Representative Bell.
Yeah.
I think we have a list of those people. We can contact them and see how we can help them do it. If we have to go down there and help them trap hogs, help them kill hogs, we'll go down there and do that.
I just think our reaction to Senator Bell, while I agree that we need to educate all our partners and educate him, if we can go down there and help them take care of their problem and get them off of his telephone, then we've solved the problem. I would suggest that.
The letter was actually to Representative Fogarty, Representative John Fogarty, who represents that area down there. We have not checked, I don't believe, to see whether the individual names on there had asked for exemptions. I have been told that they did early on try a lot of trapping efforts on their own. And like I said, I think they're going through some of the educational process that we did of finding what traps work, what traps trap hogs, and what traps educate hogs. And I think they've run up against that, but we can certainly check that list of names against exemptions and then go down and work with those individual people.
If I may, Commissioner Cox, Kirk Miles, Wildlife Program Manager of Region 3, has had some dealings with these folks. If you want some more information about what we're going to do.
I just think that Senator Bell could be turned from an adversary into an ally up there if we help him take care of his problem. Whatever we need to do to try to help those guys take care of that hog problem, it helps them and it politically helps us.
Can I, Kirk, before you speak, and please don't take this as argumentative. I think Senator Bell has been a good friend to this agency. I think that his constituents are frustrated. They've been trying what we have suggested, and I think that a dialogue between them, him, us, Representative Fogarty, just to listen to what they're running into can't hurt. I mean, even within the agency, and Kirk, you and I have talked about this at length, we are learning ourselves how to deal with the hogs. And any information from outside the agency, I don't think can do anything but help us too. So, but I just, and you know this, Senator Bell has been a good friend, and he's got a legitimate concern, and I think the idea that Commissioner Woodson proposed of getting everybody together is really heading in the right direction. So, excuse me.
I can just tell you the history of what we've done with, it's actually a group of landowners in McMinn County. And we did respond, actually myself, Ben Layton, our big game coordinator, along with county officers. We went, it's a large farm. His primary crop was corn, and the hogs were obviously, they were rooting, they were causing damage. There was no question. To their credit, they had actually been trying to trap hogs, I guess before they were being proactive, even before, you know, we started learning how to trap hogs. They were trying to trap hogs on that property, and they were doing it a little bit wrong, but they were still trying, and they probably did educate some hogs there on, you know, going into a trap. I don't think it was really their fault. What we tried to do with them at that point, it was kind of late in the season. We went back and tried to do we used some of our thermal imaging and spent a night or two out there trying to shoot hogs if we could get them, you know, with their thermal imaging. That wasn't successful. I think that area there is large enough and big enough that I think the possibility of using the helicopter is a potential method there. But that's the history. We've been there. They have been trying to trap hogs. That's what I know about it.
Somebody has obviously convinced them that hunting with dogs is the answer to their problem. They've got to be convinced, I think, possibly otherwise.
Right.
And taking the helicopter, doing whatever you have to solve their problem is probably good work.
Yes, and just seeing the lay of the land when I was there, I think it is an area where the helicopter it would be something to try for sure, if we could do that.
Thank you very much. And I'll just say from the conversation that I had, absolutely, Commissioner Ripley.
I'm fairly new on the commission, so I'm trying to understand the biology and the habits of these animals and so forth. Is dog hunting at all effective to eradicate large numbers of hogs?
To eradicate what I would say is
this really any solution? It's been my understanding, I'll just say that it's not. That
No.
you're not, that hunting hogs does not kill hogs in sufficient numbers to control their populations, and that's been proven not only in this state, but in many states. Am I correct in that?
Yes, sir. I would say you're correct. Trapping is by far the way to get rid of numbers of hogs on any given property. I think we've proven that on Catoosa Wildlife Management Area. So, yes, that's the correct. You are correct.
Yeah, I know they have a problem, and I know they're looking for a solution, but I just, from what I understand, that's not a solution to the problem.
Yes, you're right.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And thank you, and members, just to be clear from my conversations with Senator Bell, while there are advocates for using dogs to eradicate, his clear message to me was they have a problem that is currently not repaired. And whatever that solution looks like, I think he is very open to figuring out what that solution looks like. But they've got orchards, they've got row crops, they've got lots of different folks who depend on income from their farming, and they've got a problem. And I think that it will be a good exercise, especially as the program has been incredibly successful. What do you do with that number of hogs after you've been so successful to finish it? And I'm sure that states all over the country are struggling with this same question. And so I just appreciate the agency for their really significant efforts thus far. But I've got a lot of confidence that we can try our best to try to solve these challenges. If there's a way to do it, we'll do our best. Yes, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd heard mention a while ago at a reduced cost on the helicopter. Just out of curiosity, what type cost are you looking at? They kept pointing the finger around all the way to you. That way, kind of like a hook.
Very
They hooked
good.
you up
I
here.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
I got to run those through my wife, remember? Just as a summary to our overall approach to managing this issue, you've got to do three things. You've got to eliminate the incentive to illegally transport hogs. And that's what led to the end of sport hunting. Because Tennessee and lots of other states have proved over and over that you can't control wild pigs through hunting. Their reproduction is too high, and they have too few natural predators. Okay, so you can't keep up with them. So that's why we know that sport hunting is not the solution. So we have to be very careful to not go towards hunting as a solution. So any kind of ideas that are out there, we need to run them through that filter. Is the end result sport? Because sport is counterproductive to what we're trying to accomplish. So that's really the take-home message of all of this. And the other two priorities are to give landowners what they need to protect their properties and eliminate pigs. And the third is just getting the message out on why we're doing what we're doing. Because it can confuse you if you haven't had the lessons or the teaching of what we're trying to do. Now, I think, aerial gunning has been mentioned over and over, and from TWA wild hog biologists, that is the solution to the problem that you're describing, is those landowners coming together as a partnership and having a contract with USDA Wildlife Services to focus on that small group of animals that they can't seem to do anything with. So I think that's an absolute solution to that issue.
And is there while I'm sure that the chairman's been generous with his time and us talking to him, that sounds like an approach that could, that conversation at least with these folks, is if there's something I can do to be helpful to bring about the dialogue, but I have confidence in you all to be able to get that done. Y'all been very responsive, specifically in that community. Would you all like to pursue that conversation with the landowners, or may I can make the match if you'd like me to, whatever you all would prefer.
Right, I think I'd see what the director would advise as far as that's concerned. Yeah.
Well, and
I'll
I'm
be-
also
I'll be
fine for
happy
us
to
to
get
just
the
ease
appropriate
along, and
people.
we can continue this conversation another time. But it sounds like we've got a potential solution, and I think that that's progress.
Yeah, I'll get all the appropriate parties together.
Thank you, Nat.
I would like to get it back to my original question, but who funds it and how much does it cost?
Chuck can help me here. I'm working off of memory, but USDA funds part of it. It's a cost-sharing thing. If I'm not mistaken, then if you don't have any of that, it's about $500 an hour. I think what they've said that they will cost share down to about $250 an hour, as I remember. Is that?
Well, the discussions that I've had with Wildlife Services is that the cost is down to $600 an hour. Now, there's some sticker shock there, I realize that. But we know what it's cost us to trap wild pigs or wild hogs. And in comparison, the helicopter program is cheaper per pig. And that's really what matters, is how much does it cost to kill them per pig. Now, that cost estimate, you have to consider whenever you're developing that, just how dense are the hogs in the area that you're working. Because obviously, say you fly for 3 hours, if you kill 50 pigs, the cost per pig is less if you kill 5 pigs. So it's tough to compare cost from area to area. But we do know, and we've seen it over and over, that in the end, it's cheaper than intensive trapping effort by us. And I would assume by the landowners also, because they've got to have the same materials and they've got to have the same inputs that we would to have a trapping effort.
Mr. Chairman, quick word. And the staff knows that I've been in the thick of this more than I ever dreamed I would be. Let's honor what Senator Bell has asked for, and that is sitting down with his constituents. Let's hear what they say the problem is. I believe you're probably right on the aerial, but I would respectfully ask, when staff goes to this meeting, let's not have a predetermined solution. I think we need to listen, we need to throw out the alternatives, and have a dialogue and work together to come up with the solution. I agree on the stuff with the dogs. Let's go listen. Let's let them have, you know, the opportunity to talk with us as opposed to us going in immediately with a solution. But rather, let's let the aerial be a promising option, but let's first listen to them. That's all I have to say.
Commissioner
I think
Fox?
your answer on the hunting was not complete. My understanding, the other half of that is that when you incentivize sport hunting, whether it's dogs or whether it's just go out and shoot and fun, and you kill the hogs in the area, then magically more hogs appear.
Well, that,
And they bring them in, restock them, and then they can continue to run their dogs.
we do believe that a priority should be to prevent that transport. And sport hunting does create that incentive to illegally transport and stock wild hogs.
Director
Kim-
Carter? Yes, sir.
One or two last comments. I just want to go back and preface some of this. The contract we talked about is a contract the agency would have with USDA. The final price, I'm not exactly sure what that's going to be once we can factor in what they're paying, but I think I was close when what I told you there a second ago. The other is, I just want to reiterate one more time that this is such an odd position for us to be in, because we're obviously a very pro-hunting agency. And anytime we get into discussion, it sounds like, well, we would really not have people hunting hogs. That's really not true. It's just that sometimes the actions of a very few can impact the actions or the outcome for a great many people. And we would love to be able to do that. It's just that it hasn't worked well in some places, and so I just want to send that message that absolutely we're very pro hunting, and if there was a way to get rid of hogs by hunting them, we'd be doing that. And we tried that for about 10 straight years with a wide open season. But anyway, all that being said, and to reiterate or stand on where we're going with the partners, to Commissioner Cannon's remarks, absolutely, and that's why we want to get the partners together, because there's such a wide variety of people on there, the diversity of why hogs are important to them, from cattle to soybean growers and everybody else. They have different reasons why they're looking at it. So we need to ask them exactly those questions. What do you think works? What doesn't work? What those ideas are, and we're going to filter through those. We started this program going into it, as they said earlier. It happened very quickly. So we had to put together a lot of things very quickly in terms in response to that. So we're going to drop back, we're going to look at those, we're going to see what the options are, and no predetermined method going into that, and work with Senator Bell and any other member of the legislature when they have particular problems. I had the opportunity to talk to Senator Bell just the other night at another setting, and so, yeah, we're having dialogues, and we want those to continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and unless there's further discussion, we've completed our business. Thank you.
I do have a comment that, especially being on this commission for 4 years, when that came up 2 years ago, as a commissioner for hunters and a hunter myself and a dog owner, I mean, it was hard for us to back it. But we got to remember we've got a species that we're trying to eradicate that does damage, agricultural damage, and it's not like other species that we hunt. And so none of us want to take away hunting opportunities from anyone. And like I say, I love to dog hunt, but when we have a species that is causing the damage it does, then we did have to take, radical measures. And the success that we're having, I think, has to be a tribute to the agency. And but I do agree, we've got to work with our legislators so that we can. So he can please his constituents too. So I appreciate what you're doing that, and I feel like we're on the right track. So need a pause, okay.